Hi guys, my name's Seb Tudor, I'm the man on the Silver Mountain, and welcome back. Um, I was going to calm down, but then I saw something else, and it really kind of rubbed me up the wrong way, because I came across a couple of little bits of information, and one of them was from a psychological journal, and it came up. There was a quote which was humans are the only animals that intentionally harm each other, suggesting that we're out to get each other non-stop. See, now, whoever wrote that, I don't think spent that much time around animals, because, I've had cats my entire life and they will attack each other meaningfully on a regular basis, especially in the back garden when they see a cat they don't know and they will just go straight for them. It's a nonsense. All animals, for one reason or another, will harm each other intentionally. For the most part, it can be said that harm can be caused whether it's intentional or not. And if it's that easy to cause harm by through actions you take, through accidents, through inaction, if it's really that easy to cause harm, then I'm fairly certain that all creatures cause harm to one another. Yeah. Sometimes you can do good as well, and it balances out, or it overrides in various ways. But ultimately, everyone harms everyone to one extent or another. It might be in the smallest way possible, but everyone has an impact on one another. Every animal within an ecosystem has an impact on another, albeit probably a very small one. And I'm not going to start spouting all of us are connected BS, because that's not entirely true. But the thing is, I'm not in any way connected to my computer screen, for example, as it sat right in front of me. But if I decide to put my fist through it, then in spite of us in no way being connected, like actually connected, then I'm pretty sure I would have caused harm to it. I could sign a petition in regards to I don't know, something worthwhile, increasing public school funding, for example, increasing funding to the NHS and preventing it from being privatised. I could sign petitions up on that, and that petition could eventually go all the way up to the chain to wherever it needs to go to, and we could get what we were asking for. And as a result of that, you would think that I would have had a very small part in doing an awful lot of good for a lot of people. But there's probably going to be someone harmed by that. Someone's going to lose their job. Someone's going to have an increased workload. Someone's going to have um, their uh, their extra time taken away, because they're going to have to do more to ensure that it happens. That the money gets to where it needs to go. Someone's going to have to provide that money, so potentially that means that someone's going to be losing more money from additional taxes or whatever else is brought on to achieve that effect. But the thing is, and this is something that lots of people seem to miss, that there is no good thing comes from being on either extreme. Having an awareness of the fact that we're animals, and animals also intentionally harm, and we intentionally harm, but then again we also don't intentionally harm, and it's not a case of who's harming who or what's harming what. It's a case of the magnitudes. You know, if on one side you're going, everything's connected and so we can't afford to do anything in case it harms something, then you're completely paralyzed. And if you're on the other extreme of blaming one subset of behaviors on one specific space, i.e. humans only do it and animals don't, then or the rest of the animal kingdom doesn't, or however you want to put it, then you're not that way. You're only going to be acting against one very small area, and it's still not going to do anything. You know, you need to be in a space where you realize that there are that all of the connections exist, but also there are subsets and nuances and microcosms that need addressing on their own, and you you can't have progress or results or achieve anything without taking in the perspectives from both ends. This is something that frustrates me with politics in the world at the moment, where you are either extremely right wing or extremely left wing, and those are the two loudest minorities across the entire political spectrum. And the people who are in the centre, who are asking people to just take the best parts of both, take the best parts of socialism, of liberal ideals, of whatever else is being argued for on the left, take the best parts of things from the right in regards to kind of the people having access to things, or people having rights, or being able to, within their own country, live the way that their country has always been, or something like that. You know, be you conservative or liberal or however which way you want to put it, if you take the best parts of both and try and make them work together in some way in the middle, you are probably going to achieve more than if you go in one extreme direction or the other. We've seen this recently with how certain political movements have been completely hijacked and destroyed by these extremists, by liberal authoritarians, which seems like a complete oxymoron to me. I don't understand how you can be on the left and still feel that an authoritarian approach is worth anything. Because if you would enforce that authoritarian approach to every other situation where the liberal end of the spectrum excelled, then it never would have worked. You know, because the liberal end of the spectrum has grown out of people being able to express themselves, people being able to bring discussions to the table, and people being able to challenge the status quo and the ideas that are already existing. The thing is, now the status quo is so muddied and so divided in most of the world, be it in the Middle East, where they're actively trying to destroy one another over their division, or be it in America, where you've got essentially a political spectrum with the extreme right going, in some cases, very extreme, and the rise of some really crazy nationalist ideas, and then slightly in from that towards the centre, you've got the Republican side of debates that are arguing in favour of religious freedoms, but only religious freedoms for the people that they say are acceptable, and and where they're arguing against abortion rights and things like that. And then moving completely across the centre, because there's no one in the middle, you've got the kind of corporatist left, with the likes of Hillary Clinton, sat seemingly on the left, but they're still so corporate that they it doesn't make that much of a difference. And then you've got the far left, whereby you've got activist movements that are basically arguing for things that have either already been achieved, or are particularly touchy and difficult subjects to address, but having literal riots about them is not a way of actually achieving goals, and cajoling and shaming people into trying to help you is also not going to achieve those goals. And so it's like the whole spectrum of politics at the moment is so divided that the whole thing that started this rambling that I'm doing right now, where it's humans are the only people that intentionally harm each other. No, well, only animals that intentionally harm each other. No, that's not true, because everyone harms everyone, but at the moment it's so hard to identify who's doing the harm and who is actually helping, whose net performance in regards to good versus beneficial versus detrimental is so hard to work out that it just leads to confusion. And unless you sit there and keep track of these things, like I know many people on YouTube or out in certain small quiet parts of the media do, then it just leads to confusion. It leads to upset. It leads to not knowing who the target is. It leads to police officers not knowing who they need to pay attention to, which then leads to further tragedies, which then leads to more activism or more crazy outcryings from one side or the other about this one small group that really is mostly a completely acceptable and reasonable group that no one has anything to fear from. And it's there are 7-odd billion people on the planet at the moment, and one person can have an impact on all of them. You know, there's no having an awareness of that and acknowledging it isn't not. You don't have to blame as well. Acknowledging it and finding ways to work around that and minimize impact, or potentially if it's a beneficial impact that you would have, then maximizing impact. Those are the things that need to be taken. Excuse me. Those are the things that need to be taken into account. We don't need to just start saying that humans are just bad, because we're not. If it weren't for certain endeavors, then there's a good chance that, yeah, the damage that was done by previous generations that we had literally nothing to do with, but which we were left with, it's not going to get repaired unless we start using a bit more common sense and moving down the centre. But such is the way of things. Anyway, that's me rambling from a quote that I saw that really agitated me in a brief glimpse through a journal. But tell me, what do you think? Is my very common sense take the best of all parts and get rid of the bad? Is that something you agree with? Do you agree that humans are, for some reason, the only animals that apparently intentionally harm each other, even though that can be proven incorrect with a couple of various internet searches? What do you guys think about the extremes and how because we're only dealing in extremes these days on the larger issues, we're not achieving anything? You know, I want to hear your thoughts, because I talk to a lot of my friends and they either agree with me or they don't agree with me and they move on, or we're willing to ignore certain topics just to coexist, and that's fine. There's no reason why we shouldn't. But I want to know what your thoughts are. You're the means by which I have to talk to you here reaches far more people than I could possibly ever hope to meet in my entire lifetime, I'm sure. So tell me what you think. Anyway, that's me done for the day, I think, on videos. So if you see me in this shirt again, then hopefully it'll be a completely different day. But thank you very much for watching. If you found this at all interesting, me rambling at you guys, then drop me a like and subscribe for more. And as said, leave me some comments as to your thoughts in the comments down below. But yeah, see you in the next video.